Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Ingraham, in tonight for Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us. No time for Talking Points memo tonight, so let's get right to our top story. The left opens up a new line of attack against those opposed to the proposed mosque near Ground Zero. New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg led the charge, demonizing mosque opponents by questioning their motives. Take a look.
The New York Times wrote about this mosque a year ago. Laura Ingraham did a show about it, or mentioned on one of her shows, and said she was in favor of it. This mosque has been operating for over a year. There's nothing new here. The difference is we're in election season. And this whole issue, I think, will go away right after the next election. This is plain and simple people trying to stir up things to get publicity and trying to polarize people so that they can get some votes. And I don't think that most of these people who are yelling and screaming really care one way or another. The family members, they do care. And the family members that I've talked to, and I'm chairman of the board of the World Trade Center Memorial, 100% in favor of saying these people, if they want to build a mosque, can build a mosque.
Joining us now, Walid Shoebat, who's the author of the book For God or for Tyranny. And from Washington, Reverend Barry Lynn, the executive director of Americans United for Separation of Church and State. Now, I thoroughly enjoyed watching the mayor on Stewart last night. We asked him to come on tonight, but he was golfing, I think, with President Obama, so he couldn't make it. Here's what I have to say about this, Reverend Lynn. We have the father of one of our great heroes on the United 93 flight, of course, David Beamer, coming out against this mosque. Deborah Burlingame, her son, also on United 93, coming out vehemently against this mosque. People like Danny Pearl's dad against this mosque. You know, the idea that, oh, people are yelling and screaming, they don't care. We do deeply care. We happen to deeply disagree. And the demonizing of the opposition is such a classic, old, tired tactic of the left here. It's deeply offensive to people, and I think it's backfiring, Barry.
Oh, I don't think it's backfiring at all. I think that what the mayor said is absolutely right. He did not say that no one has a legitimate grievance, that Mrs. Beamer, for example, isn't herself concerned about it. He's talking about how this has become a national phenomenon with the purpose not just of demonizing those who would create the mosque in New York City or rebuild it, build it bigger, build it around an Islamic center, but also the people who are objecting to mosques being built in Chicago, to being built in Temecula, California, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. There's nothing there that has anything to do with 9/11, but still, sadly, some, not most, but some Christians have decided to demonize the entire religion. So when it comes to the demonization front, I'd give the Newt Gingriches and the Sarah Palins more credit for demonization than anything that Mayor Bloomberg said.
I don't know what the left would do without Palin today and Gingrich. I mean, instead of defending substantively, and Walid, you can get in on this, this idea, not of the right of people to build a mosque. I, along with an overwhelming majority of Americans, believe they absolutely have the constitutional right to do this. It's the propriety question. That's the issue here. And to tar everybody's, oh, you don't like Muslims, you're Islamophobic, it's so uncompelling, and it's unhelpful, and it's a non-substantive response to legitimate questions. Walid, go ahead.
Well, look, I mean, Anwar Awlaki was a terrorist who condemned terrorism on NPR and PBS. Now, are we saying that Anwar Awlaki, who never committed really a terror attack, he never blew up a bomb in America, can we say that Anwar Awlaki can build a mosque on the World Trade Center? And the whole idea of saying that Faisal Abdul Rauf is peaceful is a bunch of nonsense. In fact, Americans need to start understanding what Faisal Abdul Rauf himself said right after 9/11. After 9/11, I quote him, what he said. He said, people asked me, right after the 9/11 event, why do they give names to Al-Qaeda, to Hamas, Hezbollah, and these organizations, give them Islamic names? This is his response. He says the trend towards Islamic law and justice begins with religious movements like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Muslim Brotherhood, because secularism had failed to deliver what the Muslim wants, which is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The only law that the Muslim needs exists already in the Quran and the Hadith. Excuse me? He does not have to plead the fifth. He supported it on Al-Ghad newspaper in Jordan. The article is titled, he even wrote the article, Sharing the Essence of Our Beliefs, an Al-Ghad newspaper.
Yeah. So this is in Arabic. Is this all in Arabic, Walid? Are you reading it in the original Arabic?
I translated it from the Arabic to the English language. This is why Americans don't see what this guy says in the Arabic language. This is not only one statement. You can see it on Hadi al-Islam, on Ahl al-Quran, on Al-Ghad newspaper, on the Al-Hurriya radio Egyptian. It's all over the place. I think the Reverend does not look at the Arabic.
Barry,
I don't even know he knows
Barry,
how.
Barry, I have a question. Again,
Yeah,
getting it back to substance in the debate here, the real crux of this debate is that folks have a level of distrust or discomfort about this. Wouldn't it be great if this imam, when he came back from his Middle East tour, he came back and actually had a real substantive discussion about some of these things he said, the blood on our hands, more so than Al-Qaeda, accessory to murder, questions about how he's going to raise all this money. Don't you think that would be helpful in order to encourage this level of understanding that I think you're in favor of?
I am in favor of it. I think it would help a great deal if people like our other guest here would also acknowledge that in the very thing that he claims to have translated, he talks about the peaceful progress of Sharia. Well, good grief. I mean, are we supposed to be terrified now because a religious group that constitutes 1% of the people in America, and by the way, 1% of the Muslims in America, most of them don't even want Sharia law. I'm more terrified watching Piranha 3D last week than I am listening to this kind of a comment. He says it's peaceful. If we cannot deal, sir, with Imam Raoul here, if we cannot deal with him here, then what in the world do you want us to do in dealing with so-called moderate Islamic factions in Afghanistan and Iraq? If this gentleman is not moderate enough for you, then we better pull out of the Middle East
do you
right
think
now.
there's any chance of Imam Raouf being a moderate who truly does want to remove extremist elements from Islam?
Let us talk about Faisal Abdul Raouf and his moderation and his call for peace. I quote him verbatim. People need to use peaceful means to advise the governors and government institutions. There's your peaceful things. We also suggest to the governors and political institutions to consult Muslim religious institutions. Hold on a second here. And Muslim personalities in the field to assure their decision-making to reflect the spirit of Islamic Sharia law. We collectively believe that this Islamic State was erected by the Prophet in Medina is the ideal model for an Islamic state. Okay. He wants to establish an Islamic state right from the World Trade Center.
All right,
no, he does not. That is a misstatement. What he is doing is he is saying, I want to be
misstatement.
a
Is his exact quote.
in the same way that every other religion tries to do that.
We'll have to continue this, gentlemen. I wish we had more time. And thank you very much. And Director